The greatest moment at League Park took place on October 12, 1920. Going into the 1920 season, the Cleveland Indians were looking to win their first American League pennant and were coming off two straight second-place finishes. They would start the season 26-11, and for much of the year were in the thick of a race against both the White Sox and the Yankees, and on July 31st they had a record of 65-32 with a three-game lead. However, in August the Tribe started to struggle. After winning 4 out of 6 games to start the month, they had a 4-game series at home against the Yankees, with a 4.5-game lead, which the Yankees would sweep, narrowing the lead to half a game. But as difficult as things were, nothing could prepare Cleveland for what was ahead. On August 16th, the Indians were playing the Yankees in New York for a 3-game series, still leading by half a game, and coming to bat in the top of the 5th was Ray Chapman, who had made a name for himself as one of the game's best players. Going into the season, he hit .300 twice, had 4 seasons of 10 or more triples, 6 seasons of more than 20 stolen bases, and in 1918 led the American League in both walks and runs scored. He was also one of the game's best bunters, and 3 times he led the league in sacrifice hits. Chapman came to the plate facing Carl Mays, and would be hit in the head with a pitch that would fracture his skull. After losing consciousness, he would be taken to the hospital, and although the Indians would win the game, their main concern was on their shortstop. Chapman would die the next morning, and the Indians would have a day off to mourn his passing. When they resumed play, they would wear black armbands for the remainder of the season in honor of their fallen teammate. After taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, the Indians would lose 7 out of their next 9, and on August 29th would be 2.5 games out. But the next day they would start to turn their season around. They would win 8 of 9 games and regain first place. Then on September 10th, Joe Sewell would make his Major League debut and take over at shortstop. He would help spark the Indians' lineup, hitting .329, and the Tribe would win 16 of their last 23 games to win the pennant. Their opponent in the World Series would be the Brooklyn Robins, playing in their second Fall Classic, and like Cleveland, were looking to win their first World Championship as well. The matchup had plenty of hype in both Cleveland and Brooklyn, and the people of both cities would be treated to a competitive and hard-fought series, in which 5 of the 7 games were decided by 3 runs or less. The series would also have some notable firsts, including the first Grand Slam, the first home run by a pitcher, and the first triple play. The Robins would take 2 of the first 3 games in Brooklyn, but when the series shifted to Cleveland, the Indians' bats would break out, and in the next 2 games they would score a total of 13 runs to take a 3-2 lead. Then in Game 6, Duster Mayles and Sherry Smith would be locked in a classic pitcher's duel that the Indians would win 1-0 on a 6th-inning double by George Burns, putting them 1 win shy of the title. Game 7 would pit Burley Grimes for the Robins, hoping to atone for his Game 5 loss against Stan Coveleski, who had won his first 2 decisions. Both starters would throw zeros for the first 3 innings. Then in the bottom of the 4th, Larry Gardner and Doc Johnston would single to put runners at the corners with 1 out. Grimes would get the 2nd out, but Johnston would steal second, and a throwing error would score Gardner. The Indians would add to the lead in the 5th on a triple by Tris Speaker, and with the way Coveleski was pitching, the crowd of 27,525 was starting to sense that the title was theirs. But in the top of the 7th inning, the Robins would threaten. With 2 outs and nobody on, Ed Kenichi would hit a ground ball to Sewell that he would beat out for a single. Then Pete Kilduff would hit a ground ball to Sewell that he would misplay, and instead of the inning being over, the Robins had runners at first and second with pinch hitter Bill Lamar at the plate representing the go-ahead run. But Coveleski would retire Lamar on a ground ball to get out of the inning. In the bottom of the 7th, Cleveland would add on another run to take a 3-0 lead. Coveleski would retire the side in order in the 8th, and in the 9th, the excitement in the crowd was building as the Indians had 3 outs left. Tommy Griffith led off and flied out for the first out. With the excitement mounting, Zach Wheat would come to the plate and single to send up Hy Myers, hoping to bring the tying run to the plate. Coveleski would get him to ground into a force play for the second out, and with the crowd on its feet anxious to see the final out, Ed Kenichi came up as the Robins' last hope. Coveleski would send the crowd into a frenzy as he would get Kenichi to hit into a force play, bringing joy to the Indians and their fans, and not only winning the first World Series in franchise history, but winning it for their fallen teammate, Ray Chapman. After the 1920 season, Joe Sewell would become the Indians' regular shortstop and would go on to have a Hall of Fame career. The Indians would win many more games in their franchise, which included another World Championship in 1948, but their 1920 title would stand as one of the greatest moments in their history, and in 2001 the Indians would celebrate their 100th anniversary by honoring the 100 greatest players of the franchise, which included 13 players from the 1920 ball club, including both Ray Chapman and Joe Sewell.